Blood is thicker than water, or so they say. But when my brother walked out of my life for his perfect new family, I learned how easily blood ties can be severed. For years, he ignored me, dismissed me, and made it clear I was nothing to him. And now? Now he's standing at my doorstep, desperate, pleading for help to save the very family he chose over me. I never thought I'd see the day my brother, who disowned me without a second thought, would come crawling back into my life. But here he was, looking more broken than I'd ever seen him. It was almost laughable. The man who abandoned his flesh and blood now needed me to fix his shattered world. Our story isn't simple. It's messy, complicated, and filled with years of betrayal, hurt, and silence. But as much as I wanted to slam the door in his face, something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was a pity. Or maybe, deep down, I wanted to hear him beg. Little did I know, what he was about to tell me would make me question everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and forgiveness. The foundation of the conflict. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew each other's business. My brother, Alex, and I were inseparable as kids. Being just 2 years apart, we shared everything, our dreams, secrets, and even the occasional scolding from Mom. Our bond was unshakable, or so I thought. Life wasn't perfect, but we had each other. Dad left when we were young, leaving Mom to raise us alone. She worked long hours to make ends meet, but her love and determination kept us going. I was the responsible one, always looking out for Alex. He, on the other hand, was the charming, carefree type who could talk his way out of anything. Brothers change. Things started to shift when Alex met Clara. She was everything he wasn't, polished, ambitious, and from a wealthy family. At first, I was happy for him. He deserved someone who saw the best in him. But as their relationship deepened, so did the distance between us. Clara didn't just take Alex away, she transformed him. He stopped coming home for holidays, forgot birthdays, and even skipped Mom's funeral, claiming Clara's family obligations were more pressing. It felt like he'd erased the life we shared, trading it for a new identity. Life without Alex. Without Alex, my world became quieter and lonelier. I poured myself into work and tried to build a life of my own, but there was always a void. I had friends, sure, but none who knew me like Alex did. Over time, resentment took root. How could he abandon me and the family that sacrificed so much for him? Mom had been devastated by his absence, though she never said it outright. I carried that pain with me, a constant reminder of the brother I'd lost. Hints of conflict to come. There were moments when I thought about reaching out, but pride always held me back. Why should I be the one to mend the bridge he burned? Occasionally, I'd hear about him through mutual friends, how he was living the high life with Clara and their 2 kids. It stung, but I told myself I didn't care. Then, a few weeks ago, I got an unexpected call from one of those friends. Alex is in trouble, they said, their voice tinged with urgency. I brushed it off at first, assuming it was just another mess he'd have to clean up. Little did I know, that call was only the beginning. Building the tension. The knock on my door came late one evening. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I hesitated before answering. Standing there, drenched from the rain and looking utterly defeated, was Alex. It had been nearly 7 years since I'd seen him in person. For a moment, I thought about slamming the door in his face, but curiosity got the better of me. "We need to talk," he said, his voice hoarse. I could see the weight he carried, but it didn't soften the bitterness I felt. Still, I let him in, unaware that this encounter would change everything. Initial confrontation. As soon as Alex stepped inside, I couldn't ignore the rush of emotions I felt. There was anger, hurt, and disbelief all at once. He looked different, older, more worn down, but still holding onto the same charm that once made him so impossible to resist. I crossed my arms, trying to keep my composure. "What do you want, Alex?" I asked, my voice colder than I intended. He seemed taken aback but quickly regained his usual confidence. "I need your help," he said, his eyes pleading, but I could see the hesitation in them. "It's about Clara and the kids." The unexpected request. At that moment, I wasn't sure if I should laugh or yell. Help? After everything he'd put me through, after abandoning me and Mom, now he wanted my help. The nerve. "You abandoned us, Alex," I said, barely able to keep the tremble out of my voice. And now you expect me to fix everything for you. His face fell, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine regret in his eyes. I made a mistake, he admitted. I messed everything up, and now I don't know what to do. Clara, she's in danger. The kids. I can't protect them alone. The truth unveiled. Despite my anger, curiosity gnawed at me. I motioned for him to sit down and demanded answers. He took a deep breath before starting. Clara's been hiding things from me. She got involved with some people she shouldn't have, people who have a lot of power. I didn't see it until it was too late. Now they're threatening to take everything we have. If I don't comply, they'll hurt Clara, or worse. His voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw the depth of fear in him. I could feel the weight of his words, but I couldn't shake the doubt. Was he being truthful, or was this just another one of his manipulative schemes? Torn between sympathy and suspicion, I leaned back, crossing my arms tighter. The man I once knew, the brother I'd loved so deeply, was now asking me to risk everything for him. I had always been the protector, the one to fix things. But this felt different. I tried to search his eyes for any sign that he was lying, but all I saw was a desperation that seemed too real to ignore. How do I know you're not just trying to get me involved in your mess? I asked, my voice shaking with frustration. You've been gone for years. You've built your life, your family, and now, when it falls apart, you come crawling back. The burden of trust. Alex's face was a mixture of guilt and shame, but he didn't back down. I'm not asking for you to fix everything. I just need you to help me get the kids out of danger. I can't do this without you. There was a long pause as I processed his words. Part of me wanted to shut him down immediately, but another part of me, something buried deep inside, wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that, somehow, this was the moment for redemption. I can't just drop everything and help you, Alex, I said slowly, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I have my own life now, my responsibilities. The deeper betrayal. Before I could say more, he revealed something that took me completely by surprise. The people who are after Clara, they know about you too. They know everything about our family. They're threatening to come after you, too, if I don't cooperate. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind raced, trying to process everything he was saying. What do you mean? Why would they come after me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Alex's expression darkened. Because of you, because of your connections, the things you've built. They think you're a threat, and they won't hesitate to destroy anyone who stands in their way. The growing pressure. A cold sweat broke out across my forehead as the weight of his words settled in. This wasn't just about him anymore. This wasn't some petty family squabble. I was now in danger. I had no choice but to listen. What do you need from me? I asked, my voice barely audible. I need your help to get Clara and the kids out of town, away from these people, Alex said, his eyes desperate. I know it's a lot to ask, but I swear, I'll make it right. We can fix everything, but we have to act fast. The decision to help. I sat there, trying to process everything. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind, but one thing stood clear, I couldn't let Alex face this alone. Despite the betrayal, despite the years of silence, I couldn't ignore the pain and fear in his eyes. I didn't know what was really going on, but one thing was certain, I wasn't going to let my brother and his kids face whatever this was without at least trying to help. Fine, I said, my voice low but determined. I'll help you. But I need you to promise me something. This isn't just about you getting out of trouble. If I'm in this, I'm in all the way. No more lies, no more running away. We fix this together, or we don't do it at all. Unforeseen obstacles. Over the next few days, we worked together to plan. The tension was palpable. I was still on edge, unsure of whether I was making the right choice. Alex and I had always been close, but this situation was different. Every time I turned around, I felt like I was stumbling into new dangers, new threats. Clara had already begun to pack, but it wasn't enough to just leave town. The people after them were everywhere, watching, waiting. It was a game of cat and mouse. But each move we made, each plan we devised, felt like it was leading us further into a web of lies and deceit. The climax looms. As the days passed, we grew closer to the moment when everything would unfold. But with each passing hour, I became more certain that I was stepping into something much larger than I had ever imagined. I had my doubts about Alex's story. I couldn't help but feel that he was hiding something from me, something that could change everything. But I had no choice but to push forward. We were already in too deep, and there was no turning back. It was too late to pull away now. The final plan comes together. We had reached the breaking point. The days of planning had turned into a chaotic blur, and everything was set. Alex and I, along with Clara, had decided to leave that night, while the kids were tucked safely with friends. The weight of the plan, the danger looming over us, pressed down on my chest. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. As Alex handed me the final set of instructions, where we were supposed to meet, when the car would arrive, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about survival. But even as I looked at him, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had missed something, some detail that could unravel everything. A sudden betrayal. Just as I turned to leave, ready to go execute the final part of our escape plan, everything changed. The sudden sound of footsteps echoed in the quiet hallway. I turned, heart racing, to find two men standing in the doorway. My blood ran cold as I recognized them, men I had never seen, but their cold, calculating expressions spoke volumes. Alex's face drained of color as he stepped forward, his hand trembling at his side. "No," he whispered. "They found us." I wanted to scream, but all I could do was watch in disbelief as one of the men spoke. "You thought you could run?" His voice was low and threatening. "You're not going anywhere." The fear in my chest escalated, but Alex's eyes, wide and frantic, locked with mine. "Run," he mouthed, but the words barely left his lips before the men moved. The revelation of the truth. I was frozen. For a moment, I couldn't process what was happening. But then, everything clicked into place. The men weren't just here for Clara and the kids, they were here for Alex. And they knew everything. "Alex," I breathed, the weight of realization crashing down on me. "This isn't just about you protecting your family, is it? You brought this danger to us. You got too involved with them. You lied to me." Alex's face fell, and I saw the truth in his eyes. He had been hiding something. A dark part of me knew it. He didn't just get caught up in a bad situation, he had made deals, and choices that had led us here. The truth was more twisted than I had ever imagined. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "You lied, Alex. This wasn't some innocent mistake. You're in over your head, and now I'm in it too." The anger in my voice was palpable. The betrayal, the years of silence, it was all coming together in this moment. And it felt like my whole world was collapsing around me. The high-stakes decision. I could feel the intensity rising, the pressure mounting as I looked at Alex. This was the moment that would change everything, no more pretending, no more running. I was faced with a decision that I never thought I'd have to make. Stay with Alex, help him, help a man who had abandoned me so many years ago, or run, leave it all behind, and save myself. But as the men in the doorway moved closer, I knew I couldn't just walk away. I had made a promise, and no matter how angry or hurt I was, I couldn't leave him. Not now. I had to do something. "You think they'll let you go, Alex?" I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "You think they'll just let you walk away after all you've done?" The fear in his eyes was enough to answer that question. Suddenly, a voice echoed from behind me, sharp and clear. "Clara." She had come out of the room, panic in her eyes, her hands shaking. "What's going on?" she asked, confusion giving way to horror as she took in the scene. "Alex, what have you done?" The battle for control. The tension in the room reached a fever pitch. I knew I had to act fast. The stakes were higher than ever, and my mind raced for solutions. But there was no time left for hesitation. Clara, her face pale with fear, glanced at the men, then at Alex. "You promised me, Alex. You promised," she screamed, her voice breaking as she stepped forward. I looked at the men, then back at Alex, who was still frozen in place. This was it. This was the turning point. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't just going to let them take him away, or worse, take us all down with him. My heart pounded in my chest as I stepped forward, putting myself between Alex and the men. "I'm not leaving," I said, my voice firm. "You won't take him." The men smirked, clearly not expecting me to resist. One of them stepped forward, his hand reaching for his jacket, but I wasn't going to wait for him to make the first move. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy lamp, and swung it towards him with all the strength I could muster. The force of the blow sent him stumbling backward, and for a moment, chaos erupted. The climax unfolds. In the struggle, Clara screamed, and for a moment, everything seemed to slow down. The sound of the lamp shattering on the floor, the men shouting orders, everything felt distant. But then, something snapped inside me. I couldn't let fear control me anymore. I had to do whatever it took to protect us. "Alex, get out of here. Now!" I shouted, shoving him towards the door. He hesitated for just a moment before running, the sound of his footsteps echoing in the distance. The men were quickly recovering, and I knew I couldn't hold them off for long. But it didn't matter. I had made my choice. I was no longer running away from this. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was Clara, her face twisted in fear as she ran after Alex. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure: this was no longer just about saving Alex or his family. It was about survival. The immediate fallout. The silence that followed the chaos was deafening. I was lying on the floor, blood rushing in my ears, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The fight felt like a blur, adrenaline pumping through my veins, my hands trembling from the effort. Clara had gone after Alex, and for a moment, I wasn't sure if they would come back. My body ached from the struggle, but my mind was far from still. What had I done? Was Alex safe? Had we lost everything? I forced myself to stand, though my legs felt like jelly beneath me. The men had retreated for now, but I knew it wasn't over. There was no escaping the mess we were in, no running away from the choices we had made. My eyes scanned the room, disarray, shattered glass, the remnants of our lives scattered around us like broken pieces of a puzzle that could never be put back together. The return of Alex and Clara. It was only moments later that I heard the sound of footsteps. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But then, Alex appeared in the doorway. His clothes were torn, and his face was a mixture of relief and guilt. Clara stood behind him, her expression unreadable. Are you okay?" I asked, the words barely leaving my lips. Alex nodded, though his eyes were clouded with regret. I didn't want this to happen, but I had no choice. I clenched my fists, feeling the anger rising again. But this time, it wasn't directed at him. It was directed at the situation, the lies, the betrayals, and the fact that we were still caught in this mess. "You never had a choice," I said, my voice steady despite the fire burning inside me. "You made the choice when you got involved with them. This wasn't an accident, Alex." Clara stepped forward then, her face pale and drawn. "We need to leave. They'll be back. We have to go now." Shifting dynamics. The tension between us was palpable. I could feel the distance that had grown between us over the years of resentment and betrayal, and now, we were stuck, together, but alone. Alex seemed different, lost in his guilt, while Clara was focused only on survival. We were no longer a family, no longer the close-knit unit we once were. "We don't have time to argue," Clara said sharply, snapping me out of my thoughts. "We need to go. It's not safe here anymore." I nodded, understanding the urgency. The fact was, nothing would ever be the same again. The future, whatever it held, was uncertain. But we had to survive. There was no other option now. Unexpected revelation. Just as we were about to leave, Alex turned to me, a sudden determination in his eyes. "There's something you don't know," he said, his voice strained. My heart skipped a beat. "What are you talking about?" He hesitated, glancing at Clara, who was already halfway to the door. "Before all of this happened, I was planning to leave them. I was trying to fix things, and get us out of the mess I created. But it all went wrong. The men I brought into this, well, they're connected to something much bigger than I realized. And now they're coming after us, not just for money, but for everything I know." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. The danger wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about exposure, everything Alex had hidden coming to light. And now, there was no turning back. We were all in this together, whether we liked it or not. A moment of closure. As we packed what little we could carry, I found myself questioning everything Alex had told me, everything I had believed. How had I not seen it before? How had I trusted him, knowing what kind of person he could be? But as I looked at him now, I saw the broken man he had become. The man who had once stood as a protector now seemed like the one needing saving. I don't expect you to forgive me, Alex said quietly, his eyes full of regret. But I want you to know, I never wanted this for you. For any of us. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to lash out, to tell him how much he had hurt me. But another part of me, maybe the part that had loved him for so long, just nodded. There were no words that could fix this. The damage was done. All that was left was the aftermath, the road ahead that would define what came next. Regaining control. As we left that place behind, the silence between us grew heavier. But something had changed. We had been brought to our lowest point, and now, as we stood on the brink of escape, there was a sense of empowerment in knowing that we had survived. The worst had happened, but we had made it through. Now, it was time to start over, to rebuild. The road ahead was unclear, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe again. The world had given us a second chance, and maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to make it right. Reflection on the journey. As I stood on the edge of a new chapter, the weight of everything that had happened began to settle in. The dust had finally started to clear, but the scars, physical and emotional, remained. I looked at Alex and Clara, both of them changed by the turmoil we had been through. It wasn't just the fight for survival that had shifted us, but the choices we had made, the betrayals, and the truths we had uncovered along the way. I thought back to when I first found out about Alex's involvement with the wrong people, the shock, the disbelief. I never imagined it would lead us here, to this place where we had lost so much. But perhaps, in losing everything, we had found something more important, ourselves. We weren't the people we had been before the storm, but maybe that was a good thing. We were different now. Stronger, maybe. Wiser. The growth and transformation. I learned a lot through this journey, about trust, betrayal, and resilience. I learned that nothing is ever as simple as it seems, that people are complicated and flawed, and sometimes the choices they make are driven by desperation, not malice. I had learned to forgive, not just Alex, but myself, for allowing the situation to spiral so far out of control. And through it all, I had discovered a new strength within myself. The fight had tested every part of me, physically, emotionally, mentally. But in the end, I was still standing. I realized that, despite all the pain and hardship, I had the power to shape my future, to break free from the cycle of fear and doubt that had held me captive for so long. The final takeaway. The road ahead was uncertain. There was no guarantee that we wouldn't face more challenges, or that the shadows of our past wouldn't come back to haunt us. But that was okay. What mattered now was that we had learned from our mistakes, and we were ready to face whatever came next with a new perspective. As I stood there, looking at the world beyond, I understood something profound. Sometimes, you have to lose everything to gain something far more valuable: freedom, self-awareness, and a chance to rebuild from the ground up. Final line, and maybe, just maybe, the greatest journey is not the one we take to escape the past, but the one we embark on to rediscover who we are.